And that sort of developed into your scale system that you use to do all the crazy fast stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's the idea kind of came from electric guitar, my early experimentation with trying tremolo technique to play scales. And 3 notes per string scales. I just came up with the idea. Use 3 fingers to play those scales. And so I settled on AMI, which is not an entirely new concept. This has been done for many years. Francesco Yepes and Matarazzo. You see other editions of guitarists who do these things. But I think I approach it a bit different than most people. I've kind of developed a system where any scenario, no matter how many notes you have on that string, I can play with AMI, and there's a surprising consistency throughout the technique. I still, by all means, pursue what I call the perfect scenario, 3-note per string scales.
Can you talk a little bit more about your scale system, like what it entails? 3 notes per string, right? And then what do you do specifically in the right hand?
Like I said, I always try to achieve this perfect scenario where I can make a scale happen 3 notes per string. And in that scenario, I use 3 fingers in the right hand to articulate the notes. So and I do the pattern AMI, starting ring finger AMI. So my crossing is always, when I start the next string, I'm always starting with A. And this works great in the perfect scenario. You always have this consistent string crossing. You're always playing from the first finger to the 4th finger when you're playing 3-note per string scales, diatonic scales. So there's consistencies in the left hand and the right hand. But that's not always, that doesn't happen in music. You don't just have a scale that goes in one direction, and you can't always arrange it 3 notes per string. So I've come up with ways to accommodate all these these things that happen when you actually play a piece of music. When you change direction, when you can only put 2 notes on a string, when there's 5 notes on a string, when there's 4 notes on a string, and a lot of times to achieve this, you have to make some sacrifices with the left hand. Make some shifts. But these things really come natural to me. Being an electric guitarist, my left hand, I can rely on my left hand to basically do anything I want it to do, especially when playing stuff like that, like scales. It's straight out, that's Shredder 101, to to be able to play scales like that. Sometimes I also throw in, use the thumb along with it. It's not the use of the thumb in a scale is not something I really like to do, but it works perfectly, especially when I'm doing a shift or initiating a scale. I can start a scale with the thumb on a lower string and then go to AMI on the next string. So if in a piece of music I need to start a particular scale with 1 note on the initial string and then continue, say, ascending, I'll start it with thumb, because then I can go P, A, M, I, which is a really natural technique. It's tremolo. Mm-hmm. So the thumb is also a useful weapon in this technique.
So let's talk about your CD a bit. Can you just tell us a little bit about it, what you put on it, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So my CD, I just released my debut CD. It has works of Rodrigo, Ponce, Torina, Tarrega, Rock, and Giuliani on it, and then also Sergei Rudnev. And the CD is entitled Un Tiempo Fue Italica Famosa, which is the title of a piece by Rodrigo, the first track on the disc. And there's not really the content of the CD. It's not really a theme per se. It's basically pieces I was playing at the time. It's most of my concert repertoire at the moment. And it's a self-produced CD. I just recorded it all here at my house with my own equipment, and did all the playing and production of the disc myself. Quite a project,
Yeah.
but it's a learning experience, and it's something that if I decide to do it again, it's going to be very easy for me to do. After hacking the first one out, it's the next ones are going to come, and I think it's very convenient to be able to just record in your own house and do it on your own time. It's my time. This CD was recorded at like 3 in the morning, so so it was very convenient for me to do it myself, and I'm glad I did.
When you're choosing repertoire, like you mentioned, the CD was just all of your concert repertoire at the time. What are you looking for in a piece that you're going to play in concert or on recording?
Concert repertoire, I like to play things that play to my strengths. Things that get me excited, and sometimes I'll even pick repertoire that reminds me somewhat of my early days playing guitar, like heavy metal.
Step on Rock, for instance, right?
Exactly, the Step on Rock piece. I approached that kind of in a similar way as I would playing a Slayer tune, which is fun, and I think it gives something like that gives a classical audience something that they really haven't experienced so much. Other than that, I go for music that moves me. I'm never really stuck in a century. I don't program. I don't feel like I have to program something from the 19th century or from the 20th century to make a good concert program. Though right now most of my rep is from the 20th century or 21st century, but I think things that move you as a player are things you should program, because if you're moved by the music, the audience is going to pick up on that, and that's what they want. I mean, they're not there to hear you play Giuliani. They're there to hear you play great music. And expect that. If you're playing things you aren't into, then they're going to know. So.